Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Beauty in Between podcast with myself, Gabe, my wonderful wife,
Katie.
And we are back for season 2. We are so excited.
We did it!
Yeah.
We're here!
It's been a little bit of processing and trying to brainstorm together, but we are here and we are ready to get things started. We are so excited for the different guests that we have on.
We are. And we're going to be announcing those guests over the next couple of weeks. And I feel like it's worth addressing one thing off the bat.
Okay, what's that? Especially
if you are watching this, you will notice our setup is so nice now.
What happened? That's crazy. We're in a wood world now.
I know. And if you could look around, there's actually lights, and these are really nice.
And we are together in the same place.
We get to look at each other.
Hello,
we can hold
wonderful
hands.
wife. Wow, such a beauty. I could just come over there and kiss you right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's cute. That's cute. But no, we want to say a big thank you to actually a friend of ours, Kathleen, connected us to a do-gooder, a church that has cared about just giving space for this podcast room that they set up in the back of it's in a corner of their church in their tech booth. And they just have a heart for sharing it for the sake of just letting the gospel and good news and kingdom work be done. So yeah, thank you to everybody. So we have a new setup, so that's exciting.
Yeah, we are very privileged to be here, and it's so fun being in a place where it's we feel like professional podcasters here.
I know.
So I definitely do.
And the other thing that from my more producer editor side is that we only have one camera angle for now. So it's you. So we're just going to talk to our friend that's at the end of the table. And maybe one day we'll add in other camera angles, but I don't got time to edit that. So that's where we are. But so Gabe, it's been I don't know. I think since last summer, since we finished our last season.
Maybe it'll be a half year.
I feel like it's probably longer than a half year. So? Maybe. I don't know. 6 months sounds right. But, let's update the people on the last 6 months. And then we can kind of talk a little bit about our heart and vision and hope for the sort of driving theme of this next season.
Yeah.
But do you want to just share any kind of updates of how life has been, how Gabe has been? It's so nice to look at your face in real life.
I know, it's nice to look at your face. It feels like a conversation.
This is so fun
because when we're recording, it's not sure where to look exactly, and having the camera actually aligned with where the people are.
I know.
And
this
also with ourselves,
nice.
But I don't have to look at myself. I can look at you across.
And I like that this is as if we're just at our kitchen table that we don't even have in our apartment, but you're just welcome. Come grab a seat. Grab a seat. Grab your coffee. Sit down. So, Gabe, what's been up?
So, lots of changes have been happening. We are past the Christmas season and all the holidays, which is obviously great in and of itself. But it was fun being able to see family. And my parents were in town for a bit from Greece, which was just cool experience and everything. But yeah, a lot of changes have been happening job-wise for me, which obviously. We've been wading through all of that stuff and waiting on the Lord in a sense too. But just feeling like a big promise and a lot more hope within the last 4 or 5 months than I've really had for most of my life, which is quite amazing. Because some of y'all might know, deal with mental illnesses and depression and anxiety can really get to me sometimes. And then also with my ADHD, it's going to the next thing and not really celebrating what's right there or what has just been done. So I was working with UPS doing some seasonal work for them. But now I've actually started a new job with a place called The Foundry, and it is a wonderful organization that helps to do mentoring for some small businesses in our area. And it's just a wonderful thing to be able to dream about what will be next for that.
He has a job.
It's fun that it's also something that is in a similar or close space to where you are as well. So there'll be a lot of crossover.
Yep. For anyone who doesn't know or has forgotten or is joining us for the first time. So something that's really funny about the org that Gabe now finds himself working with is that they are a Christian ministry nonprofit serving small business owners in Austin. My Christian ministry nonprofit that I work with that is local to Austin, we also serve Christian small business owners. But the two orgs, we serve different like segments of small business owners in our area. So
Neither of us will be
they
stealing
go
from
well
each other.
together. Yeah, it's
We
just,
can work close together.
but like, even, isn't your title program manager now?
Yes,
So
I am
my
a
title was program manager before I got the official promotion title bump / we actually figured out what my job was to director of programs. So we don't have the same job title, but I did start as program manager at my org, which I think is funny.
Yeah, and I think eventually I'll move into a little bit more of a similar place once I'm doing like full-time work. But it is my first week on the job doing all this stuff, so it is super exciting, and I'm ready and like amped for all the different things that we can talk about. And my boss is super awesome, and he plays video games too, which most of y'all might know that I also am a video game connoisseur. So
Yes.
it's so fun to like nerd out with him.
I feel like that's actually a really good bridge. So Marvel Rivals has been a pretty big like element of your life in the last, how long has it been out? I don't know. I feel like you should talk a little bit about what you're doing with Marvel
Yeah.
Rivals, and then I can share where I've been.
Yeah, I think there was like a play test somewhere in the summertime, but then it came out closer to December, I want to say. So it's really been only like actually out for like 3 or 4 months, which is kind of funny because it feels like it has been very much so everywhere to where it feels like the amount of experience has been accelerated like crazy.
Well, and also the beginning of this year has felt like somebody. Oh, I was meeting with Sandra actually the other day, and she was like, "How many months do we have left in the year?" And I thought about it. It was like, "Oh, it's like 9 months," because at the time of recording, this is in March. I'm not sure when we're going to start posting these. So we're recording this one ahead of time. The other ones will be, it'll be closer. But she said that there were 9 months left in the year. And I was like, what? Are you sure?
crazy.
And then because I was like, are you sure it's not like 4 or 5 months left? And then I thought about it and was like, oh no, it's just been the 3,033 days of January and February because of
Yeah.
everything going on.
Yeah, no, it's been crazy how much is happening on the news and everything too. And it's just like every week feels like a different phase.
Every day.
But I also had my birthday back in January, which was fun. But yeah, that
yes.
does feel like it was just a month ago, basically, that
Yes.
happened. So crazy times indeed. And Katie, you have been having a lot of things going on, especially with traveling and
yes.
a bunch of different like things that you were doing on the side. So
Yes.
how's it been going for you? Where are
That's a
you
good-
at?
So I'm really excited that I get to travel as part of a leadership development cohort thing. I might talk about that more. I might not. I get to go to Chicago twice with them to engage in that time, which will be really fun. But it also means I get to see people that I don't get to see in person a lot. Like a couple of people for the first time.
What are the places that you've been to so far?
I went to New
Give a
Orleans.
broad overview. Yeah.
I went
New
to
Orleans recently.
Nolens, my favorite city in this country.
Chicago is about to come up in a couple of weeks too.
Chicago's coming up.
And then
We went camping at Garner.
Yeah, that's been a cool thing is we've been able to go camping a lot
We've
more
been
and developing that,
camping!
which is very fun because kind of be able to tell people like, oh yes, we are becoming the camping couple.
Yes, and I'm so down to be the camping couple. And there is a camping trip that we will hopefully be planning with some friends through the CJ network, hopefully out in the Smoky Mountains of Nashville. And to be honest, if we became the people that people are like, oh my gosh, I've never gone camping before, but I've really wanted to go camping. Can we go camping with you? Like, I'd be so down for that.
Yeah, I'd be making steaks every night.
Yes. Oh, right. The camp food is so good. So we did kimchi jjigae over the winter. That was really fun. Like camping, which was so cool. I actually got that idea from Angie Hong. So shout out to Angie for even having me think about that concept. And then we made steaks when we were camping in Garner. And we also did like campfire foil packet potatoes that came out perfectly. So I've been really loving that. I'm still working locally with Casey, and obviously we've talked about it. And I'm enjoying my space and time there, and even just leaning more into what does explicitly offering strategic like vision, guidance, ideation, thought partnership, and spiritual discernment all together for our business owners look like. I've also been getting to help out a couple of nonprofits kind of with some of that same stuff, like more on the side, which has been fun to do again. And then this could be a good bridge into sort of forecasting the rest of the season. That something else that I've just been exploring is like questions around what am I good at and what do I like? And that those are not all necessarily the same thing.
What's the exact wording for the thing that you're going through with Sandra's, like the finding out what you want?
The Ikigai or the Yosoi or Tracy G's The Magic of Knowing What You Want.
Yeah, Tracy G. That's
there's
what
a
it
lot
is.
of stuff.
Magic of knowing what you want.
So yes, first of all, if you haven't read the book The Magic of Knowing What You Want by Tracy G, go read it. Or if you're local to me or even not, I will let you borrow the book, but I want the book back.
Maybe you can read it along with me because I need to get on that too.
Yes. So it's so good. But there are just so many elements that it's funny. I'm turning 30 this year, by the way. So that's exciting. And I thought I had been doing a good job of living my life without setting expectations of like, oh, I need to have this figured out by 30 or I need to do this by 30. I thought I was doing a good job with that. But through conversations in the Women of Color cohort that Sandra leads and also Tracy G's workshop that she led with the CJ Network and also just other coaches and mentors and friends of ours and mine, I've realized that I think I had some sort of subconscious expectation still that I would be able to better articulate not just who I am, but also what does Katie bring to the table of like any given table that I come in and join or like any given room that I come in and sit at. And I think I have become better at articulating those things and like for example more confident in naming just like explicit giftings that I have to the best of my ability. I've stopped putting air quotes around saying that I'm gifted in leadership. Even just now I had to stop myself from doing it. So there are points of growth that I've been experiencing in the last year or so. And also not putting air quotes around being gifted in prophecy or prophetic speaking. Again, like even that still makes me uncomfortable. But at least like I feel like I've gotten better at naming elements of who I am and giftings I have and different like skills and wirings and things of that nature. And at the same time, I still haven't quite arrived at like what exactly do I want to do? And so essentially my whole conversation with Sandra that I had the other day, it may have been yesterday, was I thought that I knew what I wanted, which is hilarious, especially given Tracy G's book. Everybody needs to read this book. I thought that I knew what I wanted, and I'm realizing now I don't think I do. And at the same time, I think I'm finding myself at a level or a phase of my own, leadership and just general development where I am in an exploratory phase. And I am, thanks be to God and our community and people, I have more opportunities that I've been able to like say yes to, experiment over here, play over here, create a new thing over here. So like I'm at the part now where I feel like I'm getting to like try more things, and I'm only just now starting to realize that like, oh, being able to try all these things isn't the same as knowing what I actually want to do. So that's a like huge thread of conversation that, I'll probably be unraveling at the same time as we go through the season. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to say about the experience that you've had, like job wise. You've been in youth ministry or doing youth leadership, and then doing KCN for a couple of years now. I was a youth
pastor.
Yes, youth
in
pastor.
2 different contexts.
But doing that, like you were in those places for a long time for both of them. And just the fact that like being able to try out these different things gives you these unique experiences and experience with people who have like very genuine passion and have so many different skill sets from these places, rather than being under like just one specific leadership for so long. Because even the leadership that you were under, like they, whenever you're doing the youth pastoral role, like they were similar in some ways of the people that were in leadership over you. And so, yeah, being able to have so many unique experiences with people just all over the nation and from all different backgrounds, and especially from places that are very, I don't know, just conscious of where they come from and who they want to minister to. Like, especially a lot of people that are ministering to refugees or ministering to mixed racial people, and just like all these different things that are just so amazing and something you've wanted to interact with a long time, but haven't necessarily had the chance to do so. And so just being able to, like, you are a huge connection, huge network person. And so being able to see that flourish into the whole nation, where, you know, I was looking for a place to like go travel to myself, because Kate was like, we were talking about it. I was like, I'm kind of jealous that you've been able to travel to these places.
Yeah, you need to go
She's like,
travel
well, you
solo.
should go somewhere yourself. And I was like, I don't know where to go. And she's like, well, I know somebody over here in Boston, this person over here in Chicago. If you want to go visit over here in Florida. I'm like,
That's true.
I don't know those people, so it's kind of hard for me to like
Pick a
jump
state.
into there.
I have people who you
But-
can stay on their couch.
Yeah, she has people everywhere, these sleeper agents that are ready to take action. So that's been really fun. But just going into the overall, what we're going to be talking about this season, or the overall topic, I know that we've talked about it a fair amount, about this sense of identity and different things like that. So do you want to talk a little more about specifics going into that?
Yeah, I could talk about specifics. I'm like, why are you getting quiet when you're talking about
Well,
it?
I don't know. I'm not getting quiet. I'm
So
just,
yeah, again, I feel like we need to give full deference to even how this conversation came up, because really it was, again, through Sandra in one of the cohorts that she leads, although who knows, I'm sure she does this practice in a lot of different places, but there's one cohort that she leads where she introduces this practice of Josue, and it's this idea of exploring how many different elements and facets there are that make up who you are, and that, yes, that can include, you know, the personality stuff of like, I'm an Enneagram 8 Wing 7, and Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFP, and my Clifton strengths are, you know, includer, learner, blah, 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 blah. Like there's that stuff, and that definitely is part of it. But then there's also personality pieces. There's also your experiences are part of what makes up who you are. Your family makeup, your background, your heritage, cultural, racial, ethnic, nationality, like all those are distinct and also all come in to make up who you are. Your just general affinities. Like I am a theater nerd. I am a theater technician, and that's definitely a big part of my life that I don't get to use as much in as many places. And at the same time is also how I was able to start offering myself to like edit podcast audio because of the live audio training that I have. So anyway, the idea is that through that practice, it sort of is an invitation to people. And so with our season, and what we're hoping to do is extend the invitation to you and sort of model conversation around some of the different facets that make up this broad thing that we call identity. We are not going to be able to cover everything, but you know, maybe that's for season 3 or for the future. Did you want to say something?
Yes. Well, even something that we touched on earlier that you touched on, and you know, I can talk to a little bit, is something that we've experienced within the past half year, is talking about, like you said, kind of like the strengths and weaknesses, and thinking about what we have to bring to the table, like different skills. And it's easy, like for you, you know, you have these certain professional skills. You're like, yes, I can do the lighting, or I can do. You're very good at writing out stuff and making your grants for existence, or for example. And like for me too, I have different things that I'm like, oh yeah, I could do that. Like even thinking about Spanish, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm bilingual.
Literally,
I guess
you
I'm fluent.
speak Spanish. Yes.
But feeling more confident in those things and realizing not only the uses, but just knowing that you have a skill to bring to the table, and knowing what you want to use it for, and knowing that you do have something to use. And so for me, like being able to hear some of those things from other people that I really admire, are very experienced, and it's like, oh wow, they're like saying that I'm very good at this. And even with this recent job that I've gotten or that I've started, one of the gentlemen who's on the board for it, like he put my name out there and he's like part of hiring for it. And I'm also going to be working with him. And so I'm like, oh, when you say that you would like to hire me, that I am good at this, like that's actually true.
He means it.
It's hard to fully understand or believe. And so diving into those things that we think, are part of our identity, but we don't fully let them out or fully tell them to people. And we might not put it out there of like, oh yes, I am good at this thing, or this is my skill, and I want to work in this place using that skill. We might come to these spaces and say like, yes, I'll use anything that I have, but wanting to really use the things that we are passionate about or that we want to do in these spaces. And being able to also almost put a little bit of a limit on ourselves where we're like, yes, I can do all of these things, but this is where I really just like, this is where I gain my energy from. This is what I feel passionate about and the way that I love communicating, which is very different between us, for example.
Yes, which we'll talk about more as the season goes on.
Yeah. And so just thinking about all these things that are even just soft labels that we have inside of ourselves, where there are things that we think, oh man, I'm really good at this. Or, I think of myself as these different things that hold me back. Like for myself, I think of different things sometimes where I used to put these labels on myself of like, man, I'm such a procrastinator. I'm really bad at getting these things started. And like, that might've been true for a problem that I was having, but thinking about what we label ourselves as and what God labels ourselves as and what everybody else thinks of us whenever we come into the room, because a lot of these things that we put on ourselves, when we walk into the room, somebody doesn't think of all those things.
Right.
And they might think the absolute best of us and like, man, I love how you do this, this, and that. And we're like, okay, thank you. So just even talking about those things that make up ourselves and make up the stories of a lot of our guests that we're going to be having on, and bringing these unique stories in, since there's people that are in our lives that just have an insane difference in what they've gone through, and just how important that story and their identity is to everyone else around them.
Yes, and
it's a gift.
Bringing in different expertise as well. And I think what's sort of coming to mind to sort of sum up at least kind of the heart of kind of engaging with this particular theme throughout the season is something that a good friend and mentor of ours, I don't know if she'll let us say that in public, but Dr. Andrea Holman, who we will have on this season, finally, we're very excited. I remember something that she has said in the past that has really stuck with me, is this idea that you were created on purpose with a purpose. And I think a lot of the times, especially, I was going to say younger folks, but like, when you're a teenager thinking about what you want to do with the rest of your life, and then you're a young adult thinking about what am I doing with my life, and then you're a slightly older adult thinking what have I done and what am I going to do, like all these different questions.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easy to sort of jump to the, well, what is my purpose, which is not a bad question to engage with, but I think there's this other element of like, I think we skip the, but how have I been made on purpose and uniquely, rather than the sort of unhelpful, unhealthy, like comparison and competitive model of if your point of reference for who you are is everybody else, then you're never really you're not gonna be able to find out who you are and what you bring to the table, and truly, again, Christianese, but like truly to be able to like unleash and ignite your light that you shine, that's unique to the world, that we miss something if you don't, with your own point of reference, have that conversation be, how was I created by creator, and how do all these different elements come together in my specific stew of gumbo as opposed to everyone else's, since that is a metaphor that I've been using a lot recently.
Yeah. And you even just touched on that question of like, what is my purpose? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? How am I going to do my purpose? And how that's just such a huge question for everybody in the generation. They like all deal with it on a different way. And it's like a Pokemon that's like constantly evolving, and it's still the same thing at its base core. It still has those same colors.
It's still a fire type.
Yeah, but it's just evolving into different places, depending on where you're at. And sometimes it's a question that like never really gets solved, or even for for me, for example, like it's something that I dealt with for a while, and I was like, okay, I think I'm doing what I should be doing, what I think I'm doing, and then realizing you're doing it for somebody else's purpose or for somebody else's desires,
Yep.
and it's like,
We're gonna talk about
oh,
that too.
okay, yeah, I got to start over real quick. We gotta devolve this question and look at what's like really in the core of it, and yeah, like I said, what we think of as the core of ourselves, and just remembering that we are all a gift to somebody.
Yes.
And we don't have to necessarily find a perfect match in being dating or married to somebody, but you have a place that God wants you to be, and there is like a will for your life, and there is a plan, which is just like awesome, but also confusing to think about sometimes.
Yeah. So essentially, the idea and the hope with the rest of the episodes in this season is that we're just going to have different conversations with folks from varying industries and expertise and education and ages and life experience, just all the things. We're going to have conversations with a lot of different amazing people, Dr. Andrea Hallman being one of them. Now she literally can't say no. To just talk about the different elements of identity that maybe if you have grown up in and around the church, that you've heard like a brief throwaway kind of topic of like, oh, mental health is important, maybe, except for now there's like stuff going around about empathy being like dangerous, which is ridiculous. We'll wrap that into probably one of our conversations.
Lots of segmentation.
There's a lot of segments. So like we'll talk about some of mental health. We'll also talk about the idea of like the conversation of what you want. Where does that fit in to your life, to your decisions, and ultimately how does that root in what you want has to do with who you are, and that's okay. And different things like, you know, does what you do matter, and like your work. So not to just give every single episode, although one that I am excited about too is talking about the gift of the quiet voices in the room, and like introversion and extroversion, and how neither one is better than the other. They're just distinct.
Something we really wanted to talk about before, but we're going to be able to flesh it out more, which is so fun.
Yeah. So I'm excited for it. We're going to outnumber me with more introverts than just me from the extrovert voice, because we don't need more of that in this case. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about in this season. I'm really excited. We hope that those of you who had come around for season 1 hopefully bridge into us with this next season. Do share, and don't just like, but like I think Spotify lets you comment or like respond with your thoughts about different episodes. I think I turned that on. Respond on Spotify
Well, any
and
like
on
reviews
YouTube
as well
and
awesome.
leave a review. Really, we want to engage in conversation. This might be the season where Gabe finally creates a Discord community for us.
Yes, I've been talking about that. I also want to really thank everybody, like all of our friends and family, and also the people that we have never known. Like
there's
all
somebody
of
in another
the-
country who listens to
Yeah,
us.
all of the love that y'all have shown is just amazing. Like I've had people from like people that I've gone to middle school, elementary school with, and I have not talked to in years. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I love watching your podcast every month." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful." And they're like, "When is the next episode coming out?" I was like, "I don't know just yet, but we're working on it."
They're
so
coming.
Now I can tell people that there is an actual like another step forward. We haven't
Yes.
just planned it. We are actually doing
We're
it.
actually doing it. We're here.
So I
We're
need to
thankful
do the
for this
Discord.
podcast studio. Keep up to date with us. I guess mainly on Instagram for now. As far as when we create the Discord community, we'll go from there. And Gabe, just to sort of close us out, what would you say is the invitation to our listeners and our community as we engage with the rest of the season?
Well, like Kitty had kind of mentioned, doing the comments and stuff like that, we'd love to hear the different stories that come from y'all, because we want to make this as relevant as possible. And, you know, we also are having more guests on. So just being able to hear the voices of the community would be awesome, because we want to know, you know, where y'all are at and how y'all come to the table. And also just, yeah, really thinking about ourselves and who we think of when we walk into our own little room or into our head. And so just really starting to explore that and being able to question some of those things that we think of as a given, and being able to get back to our core and being able to work forward and thinking of ourselves in a positive way, and really just thinking about the things that God has given us, whether they are strengths or weaknesses, and how they are all something to be used. So that's what I would say.
That's
Do
a
you have
great.
anything else?
Oh, I was hoping you weren't going to ask me. I think my invitation, as you listen along and hopefully have conversation with us as we go, is that as you start to hear different sort of elements and different ideas and stories around different facets of identity and what those pieces have looked like in your life, or if there's something that you hear and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that before. Why haven't I thought about it? I think my invitation to our community for the rest of this season is to just be kind to yourself along the way. To hopefully push back against some of even like what I was sharing at the beginning of this episode of like subconsciously, I still feel like I should be farther along than I am, which honestly, when you get down to it, makes no sense. So my invitation is to be kind to yourselves and just be open and honest and embrace where you are now, and also embrace whatever feels is good and right and makes sense in community local to you and non-local, of like just exploring more of who you are. And hopefully also the idea of like, as we sort of explore and shine lights on different facets and conversations around who you are, around like what makes up identity and who any person is, that there's also an element of rootedness of that you also get closer to who God is. And then as you get closer to who God is and a more understanding of relationship with him, that you also get more of yourself, and that it's a mutual feedback loop.
Yeah, the main words that I'm thinking of are like vulnerable, kind, and honest.
Yes.
Like those are the things that we would love. I don't know if there's an acronym to be made with a VKH or something, but
it's almost like a VHS. But on that note, we're gonna close. We can close things out. We will see you in our next episode that we haven't decided if we're releasing weekly or every other week. So we'll see. Stay tuned. It'll be a good time. But bye. Thank you. Like I said, join the conversation, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
The Beauty in Between podcast is part of the Chasing Justice podcast network. To find out more, go to chasingjustice.com. The best ways to support us and the podcast directly are by leaving us a review, sharing this podcast, and joining the Chasing Justice Patreon linked in our show notes.